like how we ride those waves literally has a huge impact on our experience of life. So what I'm recognizing is there are times where it's really appropriate to speed up. There are times where it's really appropriate to slow down, and gauging that with a sense of real connectedness is really the key, I think, and making sure that there is that variety.
Welcome to Are You Satisfied? A podcast that explores what a deeply satisfying and fulfilling life looks like and how to live it. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Murphy, award-winning naturopathic doctor. Today's guest is my friend Terra Gold. She's a yoga therapist with private clients like comedian Steve Martin, an acupuncturist, and a health and wellness expert. She founded the Terra Wellness Clinic in Santa Barbara, California, co-authored the textbook Yoga Therapy and Integrative Medicine, and co-created the Yoga and Healing Sciences program at Loyola Marymount University. She's here with us today to share some great tips on how to be more satisfied. Okay, welcome to the show, Terra. So good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Sarah.
It's good to see you. I feel like this podcast is really just an excuse for me to catch up with old friends.
That's always a good reason to do anything.
Yeah. So it's been a long time since I've seen you. And many years ago, we were studying to get licensed for acupuncture in California to pass our board exams. That seems like another lifetime ago. And since then, you have been doing acupuncture and teaching yoga and helping people in the health and wellness field for many years now. And I feel like helping people with their physical health is really more than about their physical health. It's really about a quality of life, right? Why do we want to be healthy? We want to be healthy so we can live a good life, I think. And so I've been digging into this question of what does it mean and what does it take to live a life that's fulfilling and satisfying. So I want to talk about that with you today, because I know you have a lot of professional experience in this. And then, of course, we all have some personal experience too. So in your professional experience and working with clients for so many years, what have you seen is the most important factors for people being able to live a fulfilling and happy life?
Big, rich question. Because I know that you and I both have been in practice for quite a while. And I mean, one of the things that's always so interesting to me and keeps it endlessly fascinating to have a practice in holistic health is that everyone is so unique, right?
Yes.
And the combination of factors that make it just right for someone in their life is a different calibration. So there's nothing across the board that I could say except that helping, to any way that I can help people find what that balance is in their unique version is really what it's about, right? For me, that's what brings me joy. And for myself, I find too that there's a natural shift over time, right? Where we have certain cycles that will cycle and regenerate, but then there are unique cycles that don't seem the same as we age and go through different processes. So I find that what I've needed as a balance has shifted quite a lot too, from my teens to my 20s to my 30s to my 40s, and I'm getting close to my 50s at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think part of it is learning how to attune to what makes someone uniquely feel satisfied. So, right.
Yes.
I have a wonderful teacher. He passed away, Jack Rosenberg, but he was a teacher of psychology, and he taught something called integrative body psychotherapy. I trained with him for quite a few years. He was also my therapist at first until I trained with him. And he used to talk about sustaining constancy, that of course all things in nature are always changing and evolving and shifting. But there is a state we can enter that is about sustaining a kind of constancy. And I think of that a bit like the middle way, in Buddhism, or, Taoists talk about being in that state of the Tao. There's Taoism, I should say, it talks about being in that state. And it's something elusive, but it's also something totally possible to be in. And we've in and out of feeling like we're in the state of connectedness, right? State of union, as yoga would say. But I'd say for me right now, I could talk about it in personal ways. I mean, here we are at a time that is probably the most challenging I can remember in my lifetime. And I know a lot of people are saying this. And what I'm finding more than ever is the value of slowing down instead of speeding up. I used to live in my 20s as if I had to go faster, even in 30s, as if going faster was somehow going to get me somewhere. And it felt really necessary and really important. But I'm finding these days that slowing down, getting even more still, seems to bring so much more clarity and a sense of satisfaction, to use the words that you brought up.
I would agree. I'm definitely in a slowing down cycle of my life. So it sounds like that's one of the ways that we can achieve constancy, would you say, or balance, or the middle way is by slowing down?
Yeah, well, I would say finding what it feels like your correct rhythm for you, right? So I like to think of it like we are all made of frequencies, literally. Literally, we are made up of
Yes.
frequencies. Our breath and what moves through us makes music. And how we relate with nature can be musical. How we relate to life can feel musical, or it can feel dissonant.
Yes, I love that
So, so how
analogy.
we decide to, right, like how we ride those waves, literally, has a huge impact on our experience of life. So what I'm recognizing is there are times where it's really appropriate to speed up. There are times where it's really appropriate to slow down, and gauging that with a sense of real connectedness is really the key, I think, and making sure that there is that variety, right? If there's
Yes.
too much fast and not enough slow, the nervous system is not going to be happy, right? Then our bodies start reacting to show us that something's off. We
Yes.
can also be too stagnant by being too slow and not engaged enough with life and with rhythm of movement. So, recognizing that and some signs of that, lethargy, fatigue, depression, is an example of that angle.
Yes. So the yin yang balance and finding your rhythm
Yeah, yeah.
and making music in
Yes,
life.
absolutely.
What's your musical song?
Yeah, what is it today, even, or this moment? Yeah.
And are there some other techniques or things you think about when you're working with clients or even working in your own life to achieve balance and satisfaction, in addition to being tapped into your own rhythm in life?
Yeah, I do pay attention quite a bit to my own breath. And when I work with people, I'm observing whether or not they're holding their breath. One of the ways I'm sure you've probably recognized this, but it's nice to share with people that aren't practitioners with acupuncture, is that you can always tell when someone's starting to flow, right? Literally, when the chi or the prana is starting to flow, because their breath will show you. You can watch the breathing change. So that's one of the best gauges I've found, whether I'm teaching yoga practices or just even having a conversation with someone and we're getting into things around their health. If we can check in with breath, take a moment to recalibrate that way. And, there's a simple thing where when you inhale and you exhale at the same duration of time, it creates a steadiness. If we inhale shorter than the exhale, making sure the exhale is extended, it's going to calm the nervous system. It's going to create that slowing down. So these are some simple everyday things we can be sure to tap into and tune into. Oh, am I breathing? Oh, no, I was holding it again.
Yes. And so that puts us in a flow.
Mm-hmm.
And should we do a breathing exercise with everyone?
Yeah,
And to
why not?
example what you were just speaking about?
Yeah,
Okay, let's
absolutely.
do it.
So very simple, even just closing your eyes or dropping your gaze so that even where your eyeballs land is going to give information to your nervous system. So when eyeballs are up, it tends to increase thoughts and activity of the brain. When eyes drop down, there's this natural calming. It goes more parasympathetic in our bodies just from that alone. So in yoga, we use a drishti or a focal point often when we're practicing in different ways. And having that gaze be slightly down and forward is a useful tool. So I encourage that, or encourage closing your eyes, and even a simple counting of inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, allowing a little pause. And then exhaling 7. So it's going to go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. We're going to stay with this for 3 rounds. So that was 1. Inhaling to a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Exhaling down from 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. One more time, inhaling to a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pausing. And counting down from 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then let your breath just be natural and observe what you notice in your body. And notice if the exhales naturally stay a bit longer. So it's simple, but these things can really make a difference.
I love it. I think we forget, well, number one, a few breaths is like so quick and easy to do. And it's such a fast way to shift our state and calm our system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a few seconds.
Yeah, truly, literally.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing too is, the benefit of slowing down and calming. Like I feel like when we're talking about balance, there is a rhythm to life and there is a time to go fast or go slow and do all of that. But in general, I'd say our culture is a very fast-paced culture. So on average, my experience is that we could all benefit more from the calming and the slowing down, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the kind of a missing thing for people.
Yeah.
In general, on average.
Yeah, and I was just reviewing some things yesterday around calcification. I've been fascinated by how we have more calcification happening internally in people than ever that we're aware of, at least, because we have the medical ability to gauge probably even better than ever. But calcification meaning the plaque that takes over and certainly leads to not just issues around memory loss, but even plays a role in all kinds of blockages that are affecting movement of blood, movement of oxygen, and potentially affecting even whether or not people are depressed or anxious because there's a lack of flow. That is such a huge issue these days as people are aging. And I was reviewing that they're saying more than ever that the best approach to exercise is interval kind of exercise, right? Where sometimes you are going fast intentionally, then you bring it down to really slow, and you're training the body how to do that well. So how to make those transitions, how to get good at transitioning in life, really, it's an example of that. Because we are going to have to go fast. Things kick us into gear for reasons that we can't imagine are going to happen. And we have to slow down and have absolute slowed down ease and deep rest. So it's our ability to adapt, actually, and to be able to gauge back and forth. It actually is the best and surest way to reduce plaque later in life, apparently. I found that very interesting.
The interval exercise training.
Yeah. Meaning,
wow, very interesting.
Yeah, so this is some work. Dr. Jeffrey Yuen was actually talking about this, and you probably know who that is, Sarah, of course. But people out there that don't, he's an extraordinary doctor out there in the field of Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, and goes back so many, 60-something lineages, I think, of doctors in his family. But he was talking about that this is one of the key things that we need to be aware of. And I so appreciate that reminder, because there are a lot of people thinking, I just need to jog more, or I need to cycle harder, or
Right.
I need to do more weights and have it go up in weight. Are you sure? Maybe we
Right.
just get better at transitioning. More is not always better.
Correct. Wow, that's so interesting. So interval exercise training as a way to increase our adaptiveness.
Yeah, and our ability to truly flow, right?
And to flow
And that's on a blood level, that's on an oxygen level, that's
ooh,
also emotional balancing, calibrating level.
great. This is so good because that also can be, I mean, how long do you have to do interval exercise training? That can be kind of a short, it doesn't have to be a 2 hour workout, right?
No, not at all. In fact, doing ideally not more than 20 minutes at a time with
Yes.
that kind of stuff is where it's at. So I mean, and that's interesting to me too, because I think there are a lot of yogis that really knew this stuff. I think of people like, in the TM movement, Transcendental Meditation, after much exploration and figuring out what people could take well, it was determined that 20 minutes twice a day was ideal. So here we are again, back to this idea of 20 minutes being potentially the most ideal. So you're not overtaxing or
Yes.
undertaxing, right?
That and well, I just love things that are quick and easy and you can fit it in. So both the
Right.
breathing and the interval exercise training can be very they don't take a lot of time and they can have a powerful transformation for in your day. Create a
Yeah,
powerful
very much so.
transformation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So if I were to do daily breathing and daily interval exercise training, is there anything else that I need to be doing to help increase my flow and rhythm in life?
Well, I would say, to be aware of how much you're revving up. If you are revving up or doing a bit extra, do it more in the early part of the day, so it's in sync with the natural rhythms of the circadian rhythms, but also the meridian regenerative cycles of the day. So that in the morning we do want things to be more yang energy, more vital, more externally focused with where we're going to place our energy probably in the day, and then wanting to go more yin, more internal as we get closer to sleep, so that we can have a better chance of going deeply into dream state and into REM mode.
Yes, it's
So,
such yeah, go ahead.
so I was going to say that even if you're only doing 20 minutes, consider that. Consider that the intensity level would also want to suit that time of day.
Yeah, and the good point also is that now there's my personal rhythm and flow that I'm getting into, but that it does need to be in sync with the natural rhythms of the environment and the earth and the external world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have people all over the world, even though we're probably talking to a lot of people in the United States, I'm assuming, in this podcast. Um, it could go global. Who knows? So, depending on what your season is like at that particular time of year, take into account the temperatures, take into account what your body is telling you, it needs. And, challenge yourself, dare to go to your edge of growth, and observe though if you're getting too exhausted, and instead of trying to hit an external mark that we read in an article or we see someone doing on YouTube or something,
Right.
try to keep gauging what am I getting as information from the inside out.
And you mentioned the seasons, so that does affect things too, right? Are we in the winter is more of a hibernation period naturally. The summer
Right.
is more time to come out and play. Is that the
Yes.
essence of that, or is there any more direction you can give people in terms of getting in the rhythm of the seasons?
Yeah, I want to, of course, acknowledge that different parts of the planet are having such different seasons sometimes. But if we were dealing with being in this hemisphere where we are, I'm in California right now. I think you were in California right now
Yeah,
too.
very very close to you,
Right.
Malibu, Santa Barbara.
Right.
We
So
could be doing this podcast live together.
almost, almost.
Almost.
So, given that here it's autumn and it's the time of metal in the elemental stages, it would be a time where we especially nourish lungs and large intestine and pay attention to the needs of lungs in order to stay nourished. What are things that lungs need? Lungs need good pranayama breath work. We also want to make sure to take good care of ourselves if we're experiencing allergies. That's often a sign of lungs being off, right? And needing to give some self-care to support that. Large intestine, of course, is a key part of our digestion and assimilation, not just of food, but of life. So when we recognize that something's off there, addressing that and making some fine tunings in how we eat, and eating more in tune with what's available in our environments, not what's being shipped in, for our taste buds, but what is actually growing in the earth around us where we're living that's really natural for that season. That's part of how we harmonize, right, with the seasons.
Yes, and the lungs are important too with this pandemic to have healthy lungs.
Yes. As many of us know, it's very intimately.
So
Yeah.
being in tune, what I'm hearing is that it helps to for us to create physical health by being in tune with our rhythm and the rhythm of life and the seasons and the world, but also satisfaction, right?
Right.
And how does that tie together with helping us be more fulfilled and satisfied in life when we're doing these things?
I would say just even feeling more of a sense of relationship, right? When there's relationship, when there's positive relationship, when there's a healthy sense of connectedness, that everything changes, right? I reflect on that word satisfied a lot since I've heard that that's part of your podcast. And it's satisfaction for me personally is I notice it's when I'm feeling most interconnected, right? And sense of potentially there's about purpose, but it's not just about purpose for me. It's also about just simply relationship. And
Yes.
that is another word for yoga, that union or that it's about relationship, right? Which is probably what has drawn me back to yoga. So since I was 12 years old over and over and over again,
Yeah.
because relationship is rich and there's so much to it to make it really flow and really feel valuable and useful and meaningful is the word. So I want to actually add that since autumn actually is naturally turning us toward going more and more yin, toward the winter, toward more internal, gradually as things get cooler, at least where we live, it's also a good opportunity to remember that part of tapping in isn't always external verification of life, right? Like, I don't just have to look at the trees outside to remember how to stay in touch and in harmony or eat a certain thing. It might even come from that more etheric place, right? Of trusting this interconnectedness, even when we can't sense, even when we can't see what the next phase is going to be in life or what the next moment's going to bring. And having the ability and the willingness to consider trusting, to have the courage to trust, even in the face of the unknown, especially in the face of the unknown.
Yes, and that there's connectedness with ourselves too.
Well,
Like
yes.
that self relationship. Like
Yeah.
even it can be external or even just internally.
Right. And so feeling a sense of relationship and interconnectedness, which would be a non-dual perspective in certain traditions of spirituality, but also recognizing that there's this unique individual soul that you are, yes, in the midst of that oneness that is also possible to connect and tap into.
I love it. So I'm going to ask you a personal question, if that's okay.
Of course.
Are you satisfied?
Oh, well, for me, it's a moment to moment question.
Yeah.
Just like relaxation is a moment to moment experience, right?
Yeah.
Or joy or so in this moment, I feel, I would say, I would say relatively. when when you
It's a
when you
spectrum. It's also
say,
it's a moment to moment thing and it's also on a spectrum.
yeah, it's a thing. I'm realizing that to be frank, I'm realizing that right before we were coming into this, I took my son to school and he was really grumpy, and then I had I
How old
thought
is he now?
he's 8.5,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Yeah. So I came into this session noticing wow, I have something in my nervous system right now that's feeling it, feeling a
Yeah.
little, "Arr." And I was just aware that I brought it in. So am I fully satisfied? I'm satisfied in the sense that I'm really grateful it's not going to last. And I know it's just a moment.
I think that's
uh,
so important too, is to know that, yeah, things are passing and temporary and yeah, to not
yeah.
hold on to those dissatisfying things. It will pass.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet there's a satisfaction also in knowing that he feels safe enough to have, you know, to let it all out. There's satisfaction in knowing that in challenging moments, I still feel our closeness, you know. So there's that too. It's sort of a sweet sadness and buildup of energy. But also, I'm here with you, and I'm grateful for what we get to share and talk about here. But I noticed that that lingered and that came in with me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and I'm hearing, which I think is true, that there can be satisfaction within the dissatisfaction.
absolutely. Right?
So when there's these temporary dissatisfactions in life, challenges, obstacles, things aren't going, yeah, that maybe they're difficult or someone's grumpy, but the on the bigger picture, when we're tapped into that bigger picture and spirit place, that, well, there can be satisfaction just to have that experience, and you know, yeah, being with your son and that he's expressing his emotions. And so it's probably a matter of perspective.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so. Perspective, keyword. Yeah, because I often think about that. The way we perceive the world is such a, everyone has a unique lens. And the older I get, the more I'm reminded more and more that I can't assume or presume that somebody has the same lens or outlook that I'm having in any moment. Even if
Right.
I'm with someone and we're sharing, oh, this is so great. Well, yeah, it's great, but they still have a real different lens to life, right? And we can do all we can to keep fine tuning our perceptions. And I think that is really important. I would like to say that I mean, part of satisfaction, I think, it does come from some intentionality, right? That it's not just going for the ride, but also having some intention on the ride of life around what is meaningful.
Yes. Intention to create a satisfying life can be one of the intentions.
Absolutely.
Like, what,
Absolutely.
asking that question is, what is going to make me satisfied, and be daring to go there and do that or be that or create
I'm,
that.
I'm curious what the word satisfied means to you.
Well, I liken it to the word fulfillment. Being fulfilled is probably the bigger, deeper word of it. But, Are You Satisfied was a catchy title.
Ful- Fulfillment and satisfied could also both sound to me like there's getting to a certain place. Does it feel like that to you? I'm curious.
Or
Or resting in a
be
certain
or
place.
being in the moment and enjoying the journey to that certain, I think we mistake placing satisfaction or fulfillment in the future or outside of ourselves or somewhere where we need to get to or things we need to do. But in my experience, it's actually about getting into the moment and feeling the satisfaction or fulfillment that is available now, regardless of where we're going or what we're working towards. Like,
Mm.
I mean, again, a perspective shift, like if we're always trying to get to that place of satisfaction, I don't know if we'll ever get there.
Yeah. Because that already implies that you're separate from it, right? If
Right.
you're trying to get there, then you're
Yeah.
not there.
Or we'll get there, but then our mode of operation is, okay, now what's the next thing to get satisfied, right? Like, we're kind of trained to do that. Like, I need to get this or get that, and then I'll be satisfied and buy that car, buy that dress, or, find that husband or whatever. Or, have that successful career. But yeah, it's probably about figuring out how to enjoy the journey, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
remembering to do that when we forget, because like you said, it's a moment to moment shifting, sometimes elusive feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as a longtime yogi and studier of life and the human condition, I know you've been doing this for a long time. What would you say, stepping forward, as we were just talking about, is there a next level for creating satisfaction in your life that you see yourself doing?
Mm. Mm. Huh. Funny, I mentioned music earlier, and one of my great loves has been chanting, singing, sharing musically in my lifetime. And there have been key times where I pursued it and shared it, and it was a big focus. And I've been starting to sing and chant more again. So in my personal practices, that's bringing more satisfaction. The more I weave it into my life. That's a personal share I can say
I
about that.
love it. That's,
Yeah.
for me, it's dance.
Oh, great.
I love dancing, and what I see there with the music and chanting and the dance or anything else like that is it's something where we are in the moment and just creating in the moment. So perhaps that's how it brings us that joy and satisfaction, is getting us tapped into just the joy of like moving and flowing in the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I was remembering when you said that I often encourage people when we're sharing yoga practices to imagine that the breath is moving you, you know? And
Mm,
when I find that so much with improvisational sounding or improvisational movements and dance, that it's going into this state where it's being moved by this deeper force,
yes.
and we can call it prana or chi or life force itself, spirit. But
Yes.
it's that's so important. Do you also do free form, or are you doing structured dance? Are you doing both?
Both. I love it all. I love it all. And same with yoga. I mean, I love the free form yoga also for that reason. To not have it be structured, but just to be able to move in whatever way your impulses and feelings tell you to. That's my
Nice.
favorite.
I hear that. Very
So,
cool.
well, as we wrap up, I guess my final question would be, I know you've done some various interviews and whatnot. Is there any question that you've never been asked that you've always wanted to be asked, or something that you just say, wow, I'd really like to share this with people. Why don't I ever get to talk about this?
Gosh,
And I
that's a big
totally put you
question.
on the spot. I didn't prepare her. We talked last night. She has not been prepared. So, with
Yeah.
this
Oh,
question,
geez. Oh,
let's
oh,
see what
oh.
happens. I don't mean to, if anything comes to mind, if it doesn't, we can do a different question, but I'm just curious to see what
Hmm.
evolves.
Hmm. That is such a big question. I, um, I don't exactly know where to go with it except to say that in this moment, what's coming to me is that I just want to encourage everyone to be as creative as they can. Find time to be creative. And I'm finding that life can get so structured. So, even without trying to be. And we can find that, like you said, that we're so focused on the future or handling things from the past and maybe not always moving forward. And I really find that the more I can, I'm going to speak for myself, the more I can just invite myself to be creative and not know everything and be in a state of openness and wonder, to this thing called life in a human form. It can be pretty awesome and maybe not as scary. But I will say every day I'm aware of moments where I feel scared. Every day I'm aware of moments where I feel alive and I feel safe. Every day I'm aware of feeling connected and then moments of feeling disconnected. And to be creative with it and to somehow make art with that out of our lives feels to me like maybe that's the purpose.
Yeah.
And
I mean, life is a creative act,
right,
right?
literally, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we forget that we are a part of that creation and co-creating, and we get to create our lives every day, every moment. Like we are in that. I love, yeah, the word creative and creativity and creative people, and we're all creative.
Yes. Yeah, I like that you just said it, and we're all creative. I think there are a lot of people I meet that forget that they are or that their lives
Yeah,
can
they say,
be.
"Oh no, I'm not a creative. I'm." No, you are. That's part of human nature.
Right. Or I'm not an artist, or, I wish I still did this art, but my life is not about art anymore.
Right.
Really? Everything can be art. Everything can be creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I love it. Tara, is there anywhere we can send people if they're interested in working with you or being in touch with you? Where's a good place for people to connect with you further?
Well, even though you mentioned I live in Santa Barbara, I work with people all over the world on Zoom these days. It's quite
Wonderful.
special how well it works. And I can be found at terrawellness.com, where I have kind of a breakdown of how I work and what I share with people, which is very holistic, integrative medicine, and definitely very creative, and for each individual, a unique process.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for being on the show. And I need to get up to Santa Barbara next so we can connect in person. That
And
would
dance.
that would be satisfying for me.
I would love that. Thanks for inviting me onto your show, Sarah.
Of course. Bye, Tara.
Bye, beautiful.
Thanks for listening to the Are You Satisfied podcast. Links for any mentions from this episode are available in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with me, go to drsarahmurphy.com. That's drsarahmurphy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Definitely tell all your friends about it and leave a review. See you next week.